Alrighty, so first of all, I just want to quickly mention that I actually did watch both of these games. Of course, yesterday I went all the way up to Sacramento to watch Minnesota take on Sacramento Republic in one of the US Open Cup games that happened in the round 32. And because the Wi-Fi was relatively bad at the game, and I pretty much didn't have good cellular data even when I was driving up there, I wasn't able to watch either of these games, and I basically just rely on the highlights itself. But speaking of which, before we actually talk about these two games, we just want to quickly mention in terms of what happened yesterday in the US Open Cup action, because it really was upset Tuesday when it comes to yesterday US Open Cup action. And this is why, for a long time, I always want to see MLS team potentially going to a USL Championship side, or go against a team that is considered to be the heavy underdog to face against an MLS team, because this will give MLS team a bigger challenge in terms of the fact that, if they're playing at home, it's pretty obvious that they'll probably win against their lower league side. But if they have to go on the road to face against a USL Championship side, you kind of saw how things could be a little bit difficult for some of these MLS team, and we saw two of them fortunately could not overcome their USL champion side opponent. We saw Austin losing to Louisville City yesterday 2-1, and then we saw Sporting KC just completely lay an egg against Colorado Spring. And not just any Colorado Spring team, but a Colorado Spring team that is near the bottom of the Western Conference itself. So yeah, obviously that was kind of embarrassing. And we also saw a couple of teams that almost got knocked out by USL Championship side. New England almost got knocked out. They had to go all the way to a PK shootout if it wasn't for their backup goalkeeper and his hero in the PK shootout and winning that 3-1. They probably would have been eliminated by Rhode Island. Though, to be fair, Rhode Island showed a lot of spirit. Rhode Island actually tied the game in the 100th minute to send it into extra time. And then we saw what happened yesterday when I went to the game I went to, which for the whole 120 minutes, it was a relatively boring game. But yeah, the PK show was really US Open Cup After Dark, wasn't it? And I say this before. It feels like this season, Minnesota just cannot make it easy on themselves in terms of winning game. They have to make it dramatic. They have to make me sweat bullets. Well, I would just say that after watching this game, after seeing them in person, which, by the way, I was actually able to see James Rodriguez play in live. I was a little shocked the fact that he actually played in the game. But yeah, as I said, Minnesota just cannot make it easy on themselves. Have to make it very interesting. And the yesterday game was time 12 in terms of that. And the reason why I say time 12 is because it took 12 penalty kick shootout rounds to decide who, of course, moved on. And that include 3 PK miss that Minnesota has had. Usually when you miss 3 penalty kick in a PK shootout, you are not going to be able to move on into the next round. And twice, Minnesota actually fell behind the 8 ball, and twice Sacramento had a chance to put away the winning penalty to move on to the next round. Both times they weren't able to do it, and it only took to round number 12 when one of the Sacramento player missed the penalty, the one that actually took the first penalty, because we went the whole way in terms of everybody taking a penalty, including goalkeepers. Both of them missed in that PK shootout as well. And yeah, I mean, honestly, in a knockout tournament, I always say that I'll take it, even though it was probably the ugliest victory I've seen Minnesota has had in recent memories. But yeah, I'll take it. They survive and move on into the next round. That is, and yeah, that's all I'll say in terms of that game, because that game was just absolutely bonkers, especially of what we saw in the PK show. It just kind of felt like a game where nobody want to win that one. Whoever survived the longest in the PK show or blink first, or in the case blink 4 times in this game because of the free PK miss, is going to move on into or not move on to the next round. And Sacramento unfortunately missed that crucial penalty in the 12th round to lose out of an upset bid against Minnesota. Now, after I spent about 4 minutes talking about this, I'll probably put a timestamp in terms of when I actually talk about these games itself, for those that don't want me to talk about U.S. Open Cup action. I'll probably even put it on the title in terms of me not only talk about these games, but also a quick U.S. Open Cup recap that we saw yesterday. We got more games that's going to happen tonight as well, and I'm actually going to be attending one of those games as well. So yeah, it's going to be like what happened yesterday. Pray the fact that the Wi-Fi is going to work. It's probably going to work at PayPal Park. The Wi-Fi tends to do do much better when I'm there. So yeah, that's all. Of course, I will say. Now let's get into the CONCACAF Champions Cup action that happened yesterday. Starting off with Cruz Azul versus LAFC, and I gotta say, LAFC, I thought this was Cincinnati versus Tigres 2.0. I mean, when LAFC gave up that early goal, albeit they definitely got CONCACAF in this game. This was a classic example of LAFC and MLS team getting CONCACAF because of a bad decision that goes against an MLS team. I've seen that so many times in the past. But for once, LAFC, despite the fact that they got CONCACAF not just once, but probably twice in this game, they still were able to move on and didn't even lose this game as well, which could be very vital because if the resort holds, and depending on what happened in the Toluca versus the Galaxy matchup, they could host the second leg in the next round, and that is huge. Consider that you rather play in the second leg at home rather than have to play in the second leg down in Mexico. Now, in the first half, Fernandez would hit it right to Lloris before Lira would put it high from long range. As expected, Cruz Azul was definitely on the front foot. You can see that they're desperate to try to get one back relatively quickly in the aggregate score. And now let's see whether or not if LAFC can do what Cincinnati didn't do, which is ride out the early pressure. We then had a little small coming together. Bouanga and Fernandez both got yellow card, and it was huge that Bouanga got a yellow in this moment. Well, not really for LAFC, because with this yellow, he is going to be suspended in the first leg, and that is a big loss for LAFC, especially the present that he could bring for this LAFC attack, and they'll definitely miss him in the next round, whether they face Toluca or the Galaxy in the next round of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. But then a penalty was given to Cruz Azul in the 15th minute. Palencia brought down Fernandez in the box. I wrote brought down with quotation mark because that was not a penalty. And I agree with Stu Holding in this. It definitely looked like Fernandez kind of just dived there and kind of gave himself up, just really kind of fooled the referee. They even go to VAR to check to see whether or not if indeed should have been overturned. And when I go to VAR, I was thinking, well, I feel like this should be overturned, but then you remember what competition we're at. We're in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. There's a reason why I say just because VAR is brought into this competition, it probably won't change too much, because remember, the same people that are running the VAR are the same people that are making bad calls and screwing MLS team over the years as well. So no surprise, the fact that LAFC got CONCACAF here. VAR looked at it, they say, that's not enough to overturn. So here comes Fernandez, a chance to bury it, even though he kind of won a phantom penalty, and of course he does it because, like I said, LAFC clearly got CONCACAF in this moment, but definitely still not the start that you want, and now you just wonder, you do not want to have to think about that and say, well, we're getting screwed over, and now we'll just capitulate. Fernandez would then hits it right to Lloris. The shots were 8-0 for Cruz Azul early on this point, and it would get more as the half goes along. Montano would then puts it wide from close before Lloris denied Palevencio, but it did recycle, and then Montero had another opportunity, but he puts it wide on a free header there. Yeah, that was a big miss there from the Cruz Azul attacker, and a big let-off too, because that LAFC defense, they were tested and bent into pear-shaped to a point where it looked like they were going to give up the second goal. But there was no doubt, like I said, LAFC, they were nursing this to halftime. They're just hoping to get to halftime with the score still only 1-0 for Cruz Azul. Lloris would then tip Campos from long range. Hugo Lloris has been big for LAFC this season. I argue this is probably the best that he have looked for LAFC, because he has had some shaky moments in the past as well, but he has just been absolutely down in so far. And that's not a big surprise, consider, he still have yet to concede a goal this season as an LAFC netminder in league play. And I say that even though LAFC did give up 2 goals, but you got to remember, Lloris didn't play in that game for LAFC. It was Thomas Hassel, and then once Hassel went down, it was their LAFC goalkeeper Cabral Carter being in the netminder spot that Lloris usually be. But there was no doubt that LAFC, I think the huge relief is the fact that despite they were outshot 17-0 in the first half by Cruz Azul, the scoreline still read 1-0 for Cruz Azul. They still have the 3-1 aggregate lead that LAFC has had. And in the second half, the first shot for LAFC did see Schreinier shot that was blocked, but I thought it was a much better start for LAFC. I had a feeling whatever Mark Dos Santos said to his team, they just simply cannot sit back and give up so many chances like they did in the first half. Montero would then put it wide on the side inning. Cruz Azul started to ramp up the pressure again and look for the second. Lloris would deny Rotundi, but it was still goal bound, and Lloris was fortunate to gather that one before it crossed the line. And then Rotundi probably should have been sent off in this moment. So this is the second instance where I thought LAFC got CONCACAF because he clearly decked Bouanga to the ground. And I think this is where you started to see some frustration from the Cruz Azul player. They're started to frustrated the fact that, yeah, despite they're putting so many shots in Lloris' net, they just could not score more than the one goal that they have and can't score from open play up to this point because the only goal that they scored was from the penalty spot. And you can see that there are definitely starting to become frustration, and they're starting to play dirty, which, this won't be the last time we've seen a Cruz Azul player starting to become a bit dirty with their antics. And yeah, this should have been a second yellow card. Like, if this was MLS, that is a definition of a second yellow card. But remember, this is the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and we've seen MLS team getting screwed over there. So, of course, that was not the second yellow card, and that LAFC once again got CONCACAF. But even though it's LAFC versus CONCACAF in terms of how things have gone, LAFC still have the advantage. It's still a 2-goal advantage in the aggregate score, and it's still 1-0 for Cruz Azul up to this point. Fernandez would then head it right to Lloris before Paradella would do the same thing in the 84th minute. LAFC was almost there. You can see that if they can just hold this to 1-0, even deep into stoppage time, maybe that they have just done enough. Palencia, though, was in on goal in the 90th minute, but then he hits it only right to Lloris, and usually you would see a Cruz Azul team, and especially Palencia himself, would bury it. But this is getting to a point where not only Cruz Azul is getting desperate, but they just kind of feel like the writings are on the wall. It's just not one of the nights that they have where the finishing was just all off in this one. And remember how I said that it feels like Cruz Azul is sharing that typical Liga MX sore loser kind of mentality? Well, we saw it in this moment. In the second minute of stoppage time, Pivoli with just an absolute reckless tackle. I mean, that was a definition of a tackle that shows the frustration of these Cruz Azul players and that sore loser mentality. And this is kind of where if you're an MLS team, you're still a little concerned late in the game. Not because the fact that a Liga MX team is going to somehow make a dramatic comeback, but you just wonder whether their sore loser mentality is going to injure one of your star player. And in this place, Pivoli, I mean, he knew what he was doing. That was an absolute disgusting kind of tackle. And the only thing I'm kind of surprised out of that is a red card was actually shown, because with the way that LAFC are getting absolutely CONCACAF in this game, I would have thought that was just going to be a yellow card, because that's just how it is. But no, a red card was definitely shown. Luckily for LAFC, Bouanga was okay, but yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of LAFC fans were not happy about that. I'm actually kind of surprised there was not a scrum or maybe even a heavy coming together, because usually when that happens, I mean, that could get really ugly in terms of how the scene goes. But nevertheless, Bouanga gets the last laugh in terms of that, because there was a penalty that was given to LAFC. Again, up to this point, I wouldn't think that it would be given because of the way that LAFC was getting CONCACAF. But I guess probably the CONCACAF scriptwriter realized that Cruz Azul have no chance in terms of coming back, and despite their best effort to try to make this interesting, they thought, yeah, screw it. We're not going to give Cruz Azul any more advantage. And here, it was a clear handball there on Dida, and here comes Bouanga, who, of course, just minutes ago was on the unfortunate end of getting absolutely shredded by Pioli with his tackle. Well, he gets the last laugh with the penalty here, and yeah, just like that, it was a tie game at 1 apiece. Again, it was a huge goal too, because now LAFC could potentially host the second leg, depending on the result between Toluca and the Galaxy later tonight, as they tie this game and get a 1-1 draw out of Mexico, 4-1 overall in the aggregate score. And the shots in this one very lopsided. 32 shots compared to 6 that LAFC had, 9 shots on goal compared to 1 that LAFC had, 1 shots on target compared to 9 that Cruz Azul has, 13 shots that was blocked compared to the 4 that LAFC had. It was a block party. I mean, there was a lot of LAFC player that was just laying their body on the line to try to block shots. And possession-wise, 58% possession compared to the 42% possession that LAFC has in this game. And honestly, good on LAFC in terms of getting this resort. Consider, not only this is another example of maybe the gap is starting to close a little bit, but I think LAFC deserve this, considering the fact that despite they got CONCACAF in this game, despite all the adversity that they have to face and all the pressure they have to face, the fact that they were able to survive, and really, at the end of the day, they survived wasn't really that uncomfortable. It wasn't like they were just holding on to a 1-goal lead. If you look at the aggregate score, it was a pretty comprehensive victory against Cruz Azul, and now heading in to the next round again. Should be very interesting who they'll, of course, face. They get to either face their inner-city rival LA Galaxy and an El Tráfico in the semifinal of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, or they'll have even a much daunting task to face against Toluca. I mean, they already knocked out the defending CONCACAF Champions Cup champ in this case. Now let's see what they do now that they have to face, probably right now, the team. I think of all the Liga MX team remaining in the competition, I think Toluca is probably the most dangerous team right now, in my opinion, in terms of going all the way. I mean, some people might say Tigres can do it as well, but Toluca, with the attack that they have, and with how good they have looked, not only in Liga MX but also so far in this tournament, that is definitely a team that I think I still fear the most of potentially going all the way and win this competition. But that being said, moving on into the next round, we got Nashville versus Club America. So Nashville has had some big moments in only their early time in MLS history. We saw last year they won the US Open Cup, won their first ever trophy, and also the first ever professional trophy that is won by a Tennessee club, which is kind of interesting because I would have assumed one of those Tennessee club would of course win. I would have assumed Tennessee Titans have won something, but I forgot that they've never won the Super Bowl, and obviously the Predators came close a couple of times winning the Stanley Cup, wasn't able to get it done. So yeah, kudos to Nashville, of course, doing that last year, but they made more history this year. They become the first ever MLS team to go to the Azteca, a place that is pretty much just as much of a graveyard for MLS team as you would see in other Liga MX site, but they're able to walk away with a win as well. And it wasn't like it was a game where they really just kind of hold on for dear life. Yes, there were some moments that of course is the case, but they really play a perfect road game in this one against Club America, and they took their advantage when Club America didn't, and as a result, they make more history, and this might go down as the biggest victory in club history. Even though I know, like I said, them winning their first ever trophy against Austin, you could argue that might be the case, but you gotta say, to go to the Azteca and walk away with a win, I mean, that is something that we have never seen by an MLS team until this game. Now, early on, not much really happened early. It feels like both of these teams were kind of feeling each other out, just like what we saw in the last game. Mukhtar with the game's first shot, but he missed wide. The first shot for Club America saw Zendejas hits the post from close range, so yeah, a little luck kind of gone in favor of Nashville way in that moment. Schwarke then denied Zendejas from close. And speaking of luck, I mean, Nashville, as much as I say it's a perfect road game, they did make a couple of mistakes that you usually see the MX team punish there, because here, Schwarke just kind of gave the ball right to Zendejas, and I think Zendejas did his best impression why maybe he's not on Pochettino radar yet when it comes to the World Cup roster, because yeah, he just could not be able to put that one away, and Schwarke got away with it. Kind of a redemption save there that he had on Zendejas. Madrigal would then had a shot that was spilled by Colta but was gathered. Vega would then puts it wide from close in the 32nd minute. The game really has opened up. You kind of had a sense both of these teams really want to get that crucial opener. Salah would then hits it right to Schwarke before he tipped Rodriguez shot over in the 38th minute. America was definitely ramping up the pressure. The question is, can Nashville dig deep now and trying to ride this out and maybe head to halftime? No. They try to get the lead right off the stroke of halftime as Tagstaff puts it high from long range, but we do head to halftime with the score scoreless between both of these teams, and that's exactly what Nashville needed to able to ride out the original pressure. And what makes it even better is that they would take the lead in the 51st minute as Hani Mukhtar, he has scored a lot of big goal for Nashville over the year. He scored probably the biggest goal up to this point for Nashville SC in their club history from Espinoza and Naha to give Nashville a 1-0 lead. The game then started to become a bit physical with a lot of stop and go action. I think Nashville will take it because as long as this game gets destroyed then and you continue to frustrate Club America, the more likely you can walk out of the Azteca doing the unthinkable. Madrigal would then put it into the side netting with an outstretched leg before Zendejas had a shot that was deflected and goes wide. Vega would then hits it right to Schwarke. Club America was definitely ramping up the pressure again as they pressed for the equalizer. But keep in mind, because Club America gave up that away goal, now they have to score 2. So yeah, in some way, Nashville kind of has a 2-goal advantage heading into the last 25 minutes or so. Rodriguez then puts it high on the free kick. Cervantes would then hits it right to Schwalke. I also thought that Nashville were turning the ball over way too much. And most of these chances that Club America has made wasn't because of the fact that they were building from the back. These were just mistakes that Nashville has had, and they kind of got to stop eventually doing that because you don't want to poke the Club America bear. If you poke them enough, they will score the equalizer. Palacios then had an empty net there, but somehow in some way it was clear off the line after Schwalke missed out the flight of the ball. And like I said, for Nashville, you kind of feel like this is maybe their night because they are just dodging bullet like Neo up to this point. These fatal mistake that I usually see MLS team getting punished by Liga MX's opponent is not getting punished by Club America. Reyes would then puts it wide from close range. Vasquez would then puts it right to Schwalke in the 88th minute. We get 7 minutes of stoppage time, and you just kind of have a sense for Nashville, they're almost there. They're just crawling their way. You can clearly see that a lot of these Nashville players, they are just running on fumes. I mean, the altitude it started to get to them. Zuniga would then puts it wide from close in the first minute of stoppage time, and then Espinoza wasn't on goal here. He had a chance to put the icing on the cake. He did chip it over Colta, but it just could not go into the back of the net. So, yeah, that was a huge miss there from Espinoza. Luckily for Nashville, of course, up to this point, they still have the 2-goal advantage, but you just kind of have a sense, they can't give up this equalizer. If they give up this equalizer, oh man, that's going to be a very chaotic last couple of minutes in stoppage time. Cervantes would then hits it right to Schwalke in the 4th minute of stoppage time, but in the end, Nashville did it. They overcome the beast known as the Azteca. They did something that no MLS team has ever done coming out of the Azteca to face against Club America, and that is getting a win to move on into the next round. By the way, the Bluebirds were definitely loud after this game. I mean, if you thought the Bluebirds were loud after Club America barely crawled their over the line against the Union, it was even louder in this moment. Wouldn't be surprised there might be a lot of heavy criticism, and maybe even their manager might be under fire and could be on the chopping block by the end of this week. Because again, that's the thing about Club America. They're such a prestige kind of club where this kind of performance like that they did against Nashville, that is considered to be an embarrassment in many factor, and heads definitely will have to be a roll as a result of it. But for Nashville, what a huge win this is. This is easily going down as probably the biggest win I've ever seen this team has ever had. And again, going back to what I said about this club has had some big wins in the past, especially that Open Cup win that they had against Austin on the road. But this is a complete different beast. I mean, this is something that they've done something that no team has ever done. And I don't want to say that this is maybe a team of destiny, because I've said that before with past MLS team and they kind of fall on the final hurdle. But you just kind of have a sense that every season we always have a team of destiny. You always see an MLS team do the unthinkable. We saw Columbus kind of did it a couple of times. We saw Vancouver did it last season as well, knocking out Liga MX's team on the road like it's nothing business. But you know what Nashville has done? Beating down one of the favorites to win this competition, and maybe indirectly led to the firing of Javier Mascherano, even though I know Mascherano didn't get fired. He was resigned, but there's still a lot of speculation that he might have got fired because of that Nashville draw that eliminate Inter Miami. And now you go into the Azteca and able to pull a victory like that. BJ Callanan is cooking something special with this team. This Nashville team look like they're doing something special in this competition that we don't usually see MLS team does. And usually when that happens, that usually are the team that maybe make it all the way to the final before probably losing in the final, because that's just how it is. But the shots in this one, 18 shots with a 7 that Nashville has, 2 shots on goal with a 9 that Club America has. Both teams had 4 shots off target, 3 shots that was blocked with a 1 that Nashville has, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to the 42% possession that Nashville has in this game. So overall, what a night it was for MLS team. I don't know if that's going to be the same heading into tonight, because both of these MLS team are down. I would probably give them an advantage in terms of the way that at least they're playing at home in the second leg, but both of these MLS teams still have a lot of work to do to try to overcome their Liga MX's opponent. And I'm pretty sure deep down, as much as I want every MLS team to make it to the quarterfinal, which is still a possibility, if the Galaxy somehow beat Toluca and Seattle somehow overcome Tigres despite down 2-0 in the aggregate score. I mean, this would be the first time ever we've seen it in this competition history where all three MLS teams made it into the semifinal. It has never happened before, and deep down, as much as I feel like I that would be a dream scenario for me, because it's pretty much guaranteed that we will have a MLS team winning the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and another team will have to be joining the reigns of the Seattle Sounders of being the only MLS team to conquer the mountain of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. That is. I know deep down CONCACAF don't want that. I know deep down there probably is going to be a Liga MX team that's going to make it, and probably both of them will make it by the end of tonight. But we're just going to have to find out later tonight to see what happened. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.